There we go. Hopefully everybody can see me. All right. Hey, good morning, America. How's everybody doing? Looks like we got 4 people in so far. Usually we end up to about 30 or so after the first like 15 minutes or so. All right. So as always, is the video, audio, whatever coming in good for you guys? Unfortunately, here in Maine, our internet connection's been really kind of weird the last couple of days. Just uploading video to YouTube in the last week or so, what usually only takes about 20 minutes to upload, now all of a sudden takes an hour. Um, I had another I had another video, the very last one that I posted. Usually a video that size should take about an hour or so at the very most, but um yeah, that stupid video took over 2.5, 3 hours to load up. But sorry, I was checking the floor. I saw a black thing on the floor. I had to go and look because my cats have been obsessed with leaving shrews and moles and everything all over my work area. I don't know what it is, but for some reason the carpet that is in my work area here, they are obsessed with leaving moles and shrews. And it started off as like one, maybe like every 3 or 4 days, and now every single morning I have to wake up and half turn the light on and watch for little black dots in the carpet, because the other day I stepped on one, and yeah, I stepped on it in bare feet in the middle of my feet and squished its guts straight through my toes. That was a sensation I don't ever need to feel ever again. I that totally don't ever need to do that one ever again. But, so um for those that do follow me as far as on Facebook is concerned, and for the one or two of you that are friends with me on Facebook, I'll say it now before it ends up coming out in the chat. My father passed away on Father's Day. Um, not gonna lie, I'm kind of having a hard time trying to go and get myself, screwed back in and working on stuff. I started tearing the Mud Wizard apart in order to fix the suspension, and I'm doing the best I can to get refocused, but I've got to deal with all his funeral stuff and get all of that done and all of that caught up and dealt with. Um, yeah, it's been a bit of a roller coaster. Um, but for those that know, my father was diagnosed with cancer. He was diagnosed with colon cancer about 2 years or so ago, and his colon cancer, they ended up having to do a colonoscopy, and then immediately after the colonoscopy, they ended up with other complications that ended up coming along, and they ended up discovering from there that he had 5 spots in his liver. The spots in his liver, they went in for a test, and by the time they went in for a test a month later, the 5 had turned into 7. Um, and then a scan 2 months after that, 7 had turned into 9. And it just progressed from there downhill. So yeah, he, with the Corvid stuff that was going on, um, around here, cancer treatment became a potential survival rating system. And basically, if you were guaranteed that you were a lost cause, most of cancer treatment got discontinued. And so he rapidly went downhill once he was outside of treatment. But the real reality is he was on his way out to begin with. So the the cornhole situation just kind of escalated it a little bit further. Um, so so yeah, that was my Father's Day, was finding that out. John got me a Father's Day card, and we did a bunch of other stuff, and I ended up helping a friend of mine, a younger man, helping him with doing hay that day, and life goes on. So it's we're on the life goes on side of things right now. I've actually got a tractor huntish type video that I'll be doing because of my father and his passing and stuff. Um, Kind of a weird dedicational video, I guess you would say. I'm not sure how you'd word it. Um, but that'll make more sense later when I do the video. That'll probably be next week that I'll work on that. I'm waiting on a bunch of parts to come in. Um, so yeah, I'm waiting on a bunch of parts. Amazon ended up kicking up and they shipped out a whole ton of stuff. They must have had a shipment that came in. And so I figured, well, they must have fixed the shipping problems and stuff like that. So I put in another major order of parts, and now everything's back on a 2 to 3 week backlog. So we're doing the best we can to go and get some videos up, but unfortunately, until we manage to start being able to get some parts, we're at the discretion of whatever I have on hand. But it is what it is. But how's everything going in everybody else's life? That's enough about me. We babbled for 6 minutes. Let's move on to some questions. So we're gonna start off with Sunkissed, and we got some mix up now. We got some Barks, and we got some Sprite. Not really sure whether I should drink the Sprite during the conversation though, or talking, or whatever babbling I'm doing. Um, Sprite tends to be burpy, so I apologize. But let's see. Redneck Speed Shop says, good. Been starting to do a 5-speed tranny swap in my O2 Dodge Neon. Oh, Dodge Neons. Is it the Dodge Neon that's the same as the Eclipses from the 90s? Oh wait, no, you said it's an O2. So if it's an O2, it's after the Eclipse conversions. Because they had those back in the 90s, they had the Eclipses and the what was it? Eclipses, Dodge Neons, and Dodge Avengers that all had the exact same engines and transmissions and stuff, but they were all actually Eclipses to begin with. Those were a major fad after the first Fast and Furious. Every nit and picky little bap 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 driving whatever fart can person had one of those Neons or Eclipses after that movie. But I'm building a couple of PVC bows with my son. I've tried that. I've managed to go and do that once or twice. Um, the problem that I ran into was my own fault. So don't whatever. But the problem that I ran into when I made the PVC bow was that what I discovered was I decided to paint it black. And if you put it in the sun and it sits there, once it warms up, it loses all of its strength and it just warps with it. And yeah, it doesn't work so good after that. So the one thing I'll give you for a heads up is once you get done with those PVC bows, they work great, but don't ever leave it in a hot environment or in the sun, because it'll lose all of its strength and they'll warp and they'll bend over. what happened to the Yardman lawn bird? Jeez, pollen season is in Maine. Holy cow. Man, I am so sick of pollen season. All right, let's try that again. What happened to the Yardman lawn bird from one of your old videos? I'm not sure what you're talking about. Are you talking about the green and yellow hood one? I've still got the green and yellow hood one because just before my homeless situation happened, I had just ordered up the belt for the deck and the blades, and I need to get that pulled in. The problem is nobody's got any money right now, so I'm pretty much only fixing like one or two tractors up, maybe one or two tractors a month because nobody's buying. Like I normally fix 5 to sometimes 6 tractors in a week and flip them sometimes. And this year I've only sold, I think I've sold like 10 machines total all year so far. That's the reason why it is I ended up doing the Hydro Craftsman build, was because it wasn't worth my time to go and build and try and sell lawn tractors. So I decided to go and build a second mud mower because Jesse and John want to come along, and Jesse can drive that and be able to learn how to trail ride. Gotcha. Just on sorry to hear about your dad. Let's see. AYP 193. It's for the Craftsman Hydromatic with the flooded engine video. Craftsman Hydromatic with the flooded engine video. Oh, I sold that. That's long gone. That's yeah. That one sold for, I think I sold it for 400 if I remember right, or something like that. But yeah, that one's long gone. Yeah, at this point I'm fixing 1 to 2 machines a month. I've got a potential trade type idea that's up in the winds right now. So I may end up fixing up one of the Poolin Pros, but I do have, once I get past this weekend of dealing with my father's funeral and his wake and a couple of other things that have to do with my father. See, my father was in American Meteorology Society, along with, he was a teacher in the area that I live for over 36 years. So everybody wants something to do with his funeral, his wake, or his get together or whatever. So it's been a real tied up week, and my phone has been nonstop and everything else. So once I get past my dad's funeral, we'll work on the idea of getting back into the swing of things. But so yeah. Oh, as far as the Hydro Mutter build is concerned, so Jesse decided, because John's not going to be able to drive that machine for a while. Basically, John has been in the background driving that machine all over the yard. I mean, he drove it long enough to burn 2.5 gallons of gas in it, and it's only a 14.5. He burned 2.5 gallons worth of gas in it in 2 days, driving it around the yard and all over the place. And John has totally admitted that he does not feel able to control it enough to drive it on the trail. See, John rode with me on the trail, so he knows what the trail is like. and it's a very bumpy, rolly section of trail that we're going out on. So he doesn't feel comfortable enough to ride on it himself. So we're going to let Jessie choose the color on the machine, and she just got done choosing a color. It's, ironically, it is about a much darker version of orange like that. That's funny. That looks really dark orange to me, but yet when I have that light over there, it makes it look blue to you guys as far as I can see. Huh, interesting. Apparently the light that I have over there makes that look different to the camera. I didn't know that. So yeah, so we did, oh, wait a minute, maybe this will come out. It's a really darker version of this. There we go. That's interesting. The light doesn't distort that one. So it's a really dark version of this purple, and debating like a reddish type color, like highlight, maybe some pinstriping. Haven't quite decided yet. See, we both like old school GTOs. Does anybody remember the really dark purple GTO that was in Triple X that Vin Diesel drove? Like that color purple we both really like. And John likes purple as long as it's a dark color purple also, so it works. He's also a fan of Gravedigger Jr. Gravedigger Jr. is that really dark purple also. So everybody gets along on the color choice. But the problem is right now we've got rain coming in for 3 or 4 days. So the chances of us getting a chance to be able to paint it before we get to go out on the trail is slim, unless I end up having to go and work that Sunday again. Oh yeah, so there was supposed to be a trail ride, except for what happened is the guy who hosts the trail events, he also does horses. And he runs, I think he said 8 to 10 hay fields. So if you've ever dealt with working hay, hay is one of those things that when the hay field is ready and you start cutting it, everything else in your life stops. It is one of those farmer jobs that the moment hay starts, everything else in your life takes a pause. And so we have a firm understanding that if he says it's a hay day, that's the end of it. There's no questions. There's no whatever. And a few of us actually, I showed up on Father's Day to be able to help him with doing the haying. We probably hauled about 100 I'd say probably 120 or so bales that day. But yeah, it's just the way life goes. I mean, he lets us run on his trails and I get to go and take film. And obviously, as you guys know, I make money on making the videos and stuff. So for me to go over there and go chuck hay bales for a couple hours and help him, I think it's a pretty good trade deal. All right, let's see. What do you guys got for questions going on? Mr. Rallyman says, how's the new builds coming on? Buildings coming on. So as it is right now, I am rebuilding the steering and I-beam suspension that's on Mud Wizard. I'll be putting up a video about that later. Let's just say that when you see the abrupt stop that John and I come to when we come up out of that mud hole, I tried to veer off to one side, but instead I hit a major pothole prairie dog thing, and I drove the front end down into it, and I bent it. Luckily, though, that was at the end of the day. That's the reason why the belt was squealing. And so that belt had probably close to 40 hours worth of extreme drive time on it. So it needed to be replaced. I got 2 brand spanking new ones in. one to have while we're out on the trail and one to put on tomorrow when I get done working on it. So, you know, go from there. Let's see. Have you talked to Mud King? Jake doesn't drive anymore, and Jake's also a friend of Fearless Fronts. By the way, the only reason the diesel actually ever got started was because Jake was the one who did all the engine work on it in order to get it hooked up. But, you know, just is what it is. We all know how I feel as far as that's concerned, so moving on. Let's see. Dan, sorry about your father. I lost both of my parents this year. Yeah, I understand where you're coming from, and my situation is kind of a little different in that I'm upset that my father is gone, but my father honestly should have died like 2 years or so ago. So I'm working through things right now that not as difficultly as it would be if it was a sudden situation. Um, you know, it sucks when you watch the person degrade, especially 2 years worth of degrading and losing things. But we'll touch on that later. Actually, when I do a video, I've got a tractor hunting kind of idea video that's going to come up that has to do with my father, and we'll touch on that later when I make the video. I mean, let's see. Let's see. Do you have any plans for building a garden tractor mud mower? I don't, but yet I do. Actually, the Hydro Mudder that I just built is actually borderline garden tractor. The GT5000 is the entry into the garden tractor size for Craftsman, so it's not as heavy duty as a GT6000, but it is way more heavy duty than the it is way more heavy duty than the LT1000 or the LT2000, and the LT3. So that's part of the reason why I wanted to build with it. Is it's bigger, also it's longer in its frame rail than an LT 1000. At some point, I'll park the two of them next to each other, and you'll be able to see that just stock, that LT 5000 dwarfs a regular LT 1000 setup. I'll see if I can park one next to them, and then maybe Mud Wizard off of that or next to it on the other side, so you guys can see a comparison. And apparently Jesse texted me. Yeah, Jesse is currently at a friend's house in order to be able. We don't have a tub in the apartment, and she. Well, we do, but we don't. I'll explain that a little bit more later. It's one of those, guys, trying to go and make the girlfriend happy type thing. So we don't have a tub in the apartment, and Jesse ended up in the middle of one of those caterpillar nest type things, and the caterpillar nest thing ended up causing her to have breakouts and rashes across her body. So she's currently over at a friend's house right now so that she can have an oatmeal bath in a tub and relax and have a girls' night and go spend some girly time and candles and scented stuff or whatever. But on one of those notes, if you guys do not have a bathtub that your girl can go lounge in and stuff and have a quiet time or whatever, one of the best brownie points things that I ever did for Jesse is I went online, and over in Japan, in the micro apartments, there actually is a fad of blow up of blow up tubs. They're a tub that blows up to the size of a full size tub. Like I can lay in it, and I'm 6'1". It blows up to the size of a full size tub, so that you can be able to have a tub in your apartment, and then you roll it up, and you stash it away later. And when you roll it up, it's almost the size of like what would fit in a shoebox, like a large men's shoebox is the size after you roll it up. And they come with a electric pump like you would have for your air beds and stuff like that. Really, really cool. Was definitely worth it for our apartment. And what I did with hers is I actually put it up on foam so that I have a couple of foam pieces I lay down, and it sits up on the foam, which gets it just high enough that when you pop the drain, it drains into the shower stall. And so once it drains into the shower stall, it works great. But yeah, just one of those things. Oh yeah, so back to the garden tractor thing. Sorry, I got off on a tangent. My brain is utter sludge, guys. I really apologize, and thank you for everybody who joined in. I'm not gonna lie, I really debated whether I did or did not want to go and do a live chat tonight because I was really worried about myself having a breakdown and stuff when it comes to this, because my father was a teacher and I really like teaching you guys how to do the lawn tractor stuff. And so this is actually kind of really like emotional for me tonight, but it's okay. We're making it through it, and this is good. This is healing. So let me see. What year Craftsman are the floorboards and rear fender on the Hydromutter off of? From Junkyard Dog. Junkyard Dog, those are 1987 and 1987 or 88. The floor pieces, I believe, came off of an 87, and the back piece came off of an 88, if I remember right. And I'm sure somebody will get back on here and tell me exactly what the years are for the square body design like that. But if I remember right, it's somewhere between 84-ish to 89 is the transition year for the square body. So that style is what is on the square nose style Craftsman's. So watch for that hood that's actually on it with that square cut. And those are the fenders that I ended up using. Let's see. You should make John his own mini mud mower, like cutting the frame to make it smaller and something he can drive and feel like he can control. Yeah, John has made it very clear that see, John understands how my clutch drive in Mud Wizard works. So he understands that once you let off that clutch, if you can't manage to press that clutch, that machine is going wherever it is that nose is pointed, and there's no stopping it. He understands that concept. And actually, when he and I are trail riding, we actually have an understanding of bail. We have a straightforward understanding between him and I that if at any point it starts to go over and he even remotely feels like he needs to, he is totally allowed to jump. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. I will never get mad. I will never get upset. If for some reason it ever starts to go, he is to jump. What John wants is one of the, he calls them the key ends for jet ski. He wants to go and have the jet ski dongle thing with the connector that you have on your wrist or whatever. He wants one of those into the dashboard and connected like onto his waist or something, so that if at any point he starts to go, he can easily either yank the cord or he can be able to pull the cord. He's he's not confident in himself that he can smack the kill switch. John's one of those people that openly admits that there are fight people, there are flight people, and then there are stand like a statue people. Do you get what I mean? John is the stand like a statue person and look at you like you're stupid when he gets scared. So he would prefer to go and have one of those dongle switches that if he falls, if he pulls on it, if he yanks on it, it kills everything, no ifs, ands, or buts, and done. So that's what John wants, is a smaller machine, easier for him to deal with, but also he wants a no holds barred, if I fall off, it's dying kill switch, which I think is a good idea. I think a double kill switch for him is a very good idea. Let's see. Okay, let me see. Let's see. So Jessie is getting ready to go take her bath. Let me see. Okay. VF555. Craftsman GT3000 with a 3-speed transmission, high and low range, is considered a garden tractor. You're talking about the 3-speed series. I'm talking about the round nose hydro series. The GT3000 that they built with the 3-speed, yes, is a garden tractor. The GT3000 that they built with the little hydro in it, which is a DL series. The DL3000 is a regular riding mower, whereas the GT is the big one. So there's the DL and then there's the GT. I apologize, you're right. I didn't say DL, I said GT. Let's see. Hunter says, are you familiar with the Craftsman LTV series from the 1980s, the Vari-Drive? I used to have a LTV 11 that would backfire when it would get shut off. Yeah, that's got the 11 horsepower Briggs & Stratton with the solid single piece carburetor. I actually just did a video about swapping those out over on RCG Racing, and the reason why you want to swap those out is because those are notorious for either sinking the float that's in the carb or having them half sink or sticking or all kinds of other stupid things. The needle valves in them were known for all kinds of dumb things, and the backfire when you shut it off is because that carb was flooding into your cylinder, even though it should have been shutting off with the needle valve. Right now, actually, the Jesse calls it the poof of the hydro mutter right now is because that carburetor has that exact problem. I actually just got a carburetor set up for it, and I'm going to be putting that on so that we can get rid of that problem, because that machine is burning way more gas than it really ought to be right now, but we'll get it figured out. Let's see. Any plans on a 633 build? I have a 633 in my GT6000 that I use for a lot of personal stuff, but I just picked up that big ginormous white tractor, and that white tractor is actually going to probably take over most of the stuff that was getting done by my GT6000. I have beat the piss out of that poor thing. I have beat the absolute snot out of that GT, and the Briggs that is in it is definitely starting to go and show its age. in many ways. So sooner or later, I'm going to do a repower on that. I just haven't quite decided what I'm going to repower it with. Everybody wants to go and see me put a diesel in it. I might. You know, yes, that's what everybody does nowadays in order to be able to have all the torque and everything else. But at this point, I've never killed that 633. It doesn't squeal, it doesn't grind, it doesn't do anything. And I built a loader for it. I built a 1-point hitch on it. I built scraper blades. I built rakes for it. I have pulled things with that you should never pull with a lawn tractor. If I don't kill it, then so be it. I'll probably turn it into a diesel just because that's what everybody wants to see. So I might do it. I haven't decided yet. Will you be romping with La Pavoni Mac? I actually like La Pavoni as a person. He's a very nice guy. Would I go riding with La Pavoni Mac if I had the chance to? Yes, I would. I find that La Pavoni Mac is very fanboyish towards a certain YouTuber that I obviously don't like. So if I could ride with just him, sure, I would. Unfortunately, if there's another person involved, probably not. Apparently, Jessie doesn't have any candles on her bath. She's just playing with our friend's baby and watching tiki-talkie videos and stuff. I gotta go and post up some more tiki-talkie stuff. I should probably post up some more of the clips from the last romp video that we did, riding around and playing around. Yeah, I think that's what I'll do. I think I'll get on TikTok tomorrow and I'll post up some more of that kind of stuff before I gotta go deal with things to do with my dad. But I don't know. TikTok's kind of a weird thing. I randomly post to my TikTok, and a lot of it's my own personal opinions on things more than anything else. All right, let me see. AYP says square body is about 84 to 89. Then they ran the LT4000 for about 90 to 96. And then came out with the LT1000. Okay, cool. So there's your information that you were looking for earlier as far as what years had the square body. Thank you very much, AYP. Mr. Rallyman says, good teacher, have learned a few tricks from you doing these live shows, and of course, the good videos. Everybody knows jump. Oh, I got a trick for you. Here, I wanted to pass this. I actually set this here so I could show you guys this, because this is my latest trick while I've been working in the garage and stuff. So, as let me grab this. All right, so as you guys know and you've seen in video, I use this all the time. So I have these adapters and I buy them in bulk because I buy the Chinese 10 packs, 8 packs, whatever they are, and I beat the snot out of them and they just don't last, and it is what it is. But so I use these all the time. And the reason why it is that I use this little Black & Decker thing is because if I'm putting into an aluminum block or messing with an aluminum head or I'm doing something like that, then this doesn't tend to over torque and strip things out. So that's the biggest reason why I use this. But let's say that what I need to get to is over here and it's down. So your first thing that you end up doing is you grab an extension, you throw the extension on, then you throw this on, and then you turn it. And inevitably, as you're moving around and you're shaking it, most of the time this falls off. And I have dealt with this problem for years now and have always hated it every time it happens. Until now. This was my latest discovery. So, my latest discovery was if you get one of these Milwaukee kits, it comes with this little quick lock adapter that comes with it. And this quick lock adapter, in reference, is pretty darn long. So the idea of this quick lock is if you need to get to some really weird spot with this. But what I discovered is that it is really strong. And this just immediately pops in and holds it, which means you can pop it in to there and hold it, which means you can stick this on here, which holds it. And you can jerk around this thing all day, and it will never come off of there. Love it. Absolutely love it. So yeah, I don't know whether you can buy this separate. I haven't looked into it. I actually probably should. But this thing is awesome. And it is not the fastest releasing tool in the world because it's made for strength. It's not made to be prissy. So I absolutely love that. For comparison. So that's my little techie tip thing I wanted to go and pass on to you guys, because I have fought with losing those extensions with the thing down into engine bays and stuff like that, because I use this for way more of the lawn tractors. I use it all the time for anything that is going into aluminum, because I want the idea that I'm not going to strip it as I put it in. Because if you have a regular impact gun or something like that, or one of the good Makitas, Milwaukees, and things like that, if you have one of the good ones, the smaller bolts, you'll strip them right out going in. So that's my little techie tip that I'm going to pass on for this video, and hope it helps one of you. Oh, I don't know if I've ever shown you guys this. So I ended up with this free tablet, which is utterly worthless, but I ended up with a free tablet, and you can't see it, but the charging port is just utterly smashed and destroyed. So the charging port is totally destroyed. So I took it off and I was kind of playing with it, and I was going to throw it away, except for I noticed that the lithium battery pack that's in it, and it's a huge battery pack. It's like the size of my wallet in size wide. I happened to go and notice that the battery pack that was in it was a 3.7 volt lithium battery pack. And I got thinking, I've seen 3.7 volts somewhere else. The 3.7 volts that I saw was the itty bitty teeny tiny, I don't have one here, the itty bitty teeny tiny 3.7 volt lithium packs that they put in those little remote control helicopters and the quadcopters and stuff, those little ones that charge by USB. So I took the charging circuit, as you can see, I took the charging circuit off of one of those itty bitty little batteries. I put it on that 3.7, which takes up like this whole back panel, and now I can charge it independently using USB. I've used it several times now. I've got it loaded up with some MP3s and stuff. The problem with it, is you never know when the battery is going to fail, because the charge circuit not happening through this, it never knows exactly how much voltage is in the battery. So I have figured out that it basically lasts about an hour and a half on the old crummy battery that's in it. But there's my redneckery tip I figured I'd pass on to you guys while we're here. Let's see. Let's see. Will Not the Norm come back? I've got kind of an idea to bring Not the Norm back. I haven't quite decided how, but I do have plans to bring it back. I at one point managed to get my hands on a MTD rear steer knuckle assembled transmission. But it is way wider than a standard MTD transmission, and so it would look extremely out of place if I was to put it on the front of that machine. So I haven't quite decided what it is that I'm going to do. Let me see here. Let's see. Mudcraftsman 88. Are you going to try to make a homemade gas pedal? I've made homemade gas pedals. I did the 2-hole punch gas pedal. You can actually look that up online. If you look up 2-hole punch gas pedal, you'll find the video that I made on that. It's also got links in it to be able to buy exactly what I used in order to make it. And that way you have a fully controllable, actual gas pedal sized device that you can use. It's the same one that I built for the gas powered Power Wheel. And I built another for a friend of mine for him to use. And I've actually got the stuff to go and build a third one in the garage right now for the next project that I need it for. That's what I'll end up putting on at some point. Let's see. Use a trailer electric activate thing as a kill switch. That's true. You could potentially use something along those lines. Not quite sure how you'd set the settings and everything, but you know, is what it is. Oh, by the way, on a side note, Mark, I see that you're on the chat. If you're still watching this, the next time I'm over at your place, remind me that I did find the suction cups that you were looking for the mounts, and they are in my glove box. So if you're still watching this or you're watching this later, I have the suction cup mounts that I promised you for the GoPro mounts. They're in my glove box in the truck. The next time I'm there, remind me. Let's see. What's the plan with the Agway? So the Agway is an original MTD style sheet metal frame. It is. I gave John a pair of pliers, and John can grab onto it and bend it. That's how thin the frame is on that thing. John wants to try to get it up and running as a putter around the yard type machine, but the real reality is it'd be another situation of a tractor that he can't manage to go and reach the pedal on. And it also is a tractor with a clutch and a 5-speed 801 in it. I am debating building a machine with an 801 in it just to try to see whether those 801s are worth hunting around for. I've actually got 3 right now. I've got 3 801s laying around. There's an 801 in the Agway that you're talking about. I've got an 801 from a Toro in the back of the garage right now, and I've got another 801 that came as a spare transmission for a Craftsman that I picked up when he found out that the 801 wouldn't bolt in. So I might decide to go and slam the 801 into something. The problem with the 801 is that it uses the inner bolt hole mounts instead of the outer, like everything modern does. So I'd have to go and build something to work with it. Let's see. Hunter says his machine, it would make a pop sound. The steering was terrible as well. A neighbor left it behind his house. I saw it last. Claims it was stolen. Yeah, if it's got the original first generation Craftsman style steering in it, then yeah, they just plain suck. That's why I did a conversion how-to video on doing those. Where would you go to get the diesel motor for the garden tractors? eBay. You have to go on eBay them, and you have to find a supplier that is willing to drop ship from California. That's where pretty much all of them come from. And you're going to have to go and find a supplier and just watch for the next time they get a shipment. And you'll see and you'll know when they come in, because all of a sudden it'll go from saying one of 10 available to one of 200 available, because there'll be a shipping container worth that'll come in, and sometimes they'll drop the price $100 bill when the shipping container comes in, but once they get down to about 10 or 12 left, they put the price back up by $100. So just watch on eBay, and you can order them on eBay, and AliExpress also has had them lately. Let's see. Doc Sprocket did a video on DIY tether kill switch. Yes, I'm very familiar with Doc Sprocket's video. I love Doc Sprocket's videos. That dude is really technical, and he's very, very smart. I like talking with him. I like DIY stuff, but me DIYing and rednecking something versus I buy the actual thing and stuff like that, and I do it right when it's my son that's involved, are two different things. If it was for me, sure, I'd make a DIY. I've done it several times. I know several different ways to do it, but I'm not going to do that as far as John's concerned. He's small, he's tiny, he only weighs like 65 pounds. If a 300-pound tractor falls on him, it's going to be critical. So I'd rather wait. The other thing that I noticed with riding with John on the back is that the tipping point of the tractor to either side is definitely increased, as far as being able to tip it over accidentally. In my last video, you can actually see where it tips to the point that I have to throw a leg because I was about to go over onto it. And that was one of those learning experiences with the extra weight of John there. It's very noticeable, the extra 60 pounds back there. You've got to plan ahead a lot more on things. Let's see. Could you make a kill switch out of the throttle, but when you throttle down all the way, it dies? I don't really see a reason to do that, out of the fact that all you got to do is just put in a toggle switch and you kill it. Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, so if you're done with the tractor, you go to park it, and you put the throttle down, you want it to just shut off. You could do that. All you'd have to do is just, if you got your lever that comes down like that, in order to go and shut off, all you got to do is just put your toggle. You would want to, momentary. That's the word I'm looking for. You'd want to go to an auto parts place, and you would want to find a momentary toggle switch, and you would set it so that when your throttle came down, that it held down the momentary, which would act as a kill. You'd have to make it so that it toggled down the momentary and held it down far enough, but yet didn't go hard enough to break the momentary switch off. Actually, if it was me, what I would do is I'd take the end of the momentary switch and I would actually epoxy a spring on the end of it, so that way you're pressing down with your throttle lever onto a spring, which would hold it down, and then that way you don't accidentally snap your momentary toggle switch. But that's what I would do. Yeah, that's what I would do. I would put a momentary toggle switch with a spring on the end of it, which would allow it to be able to get hit and pushed down and held by your throttle coming down. And then when you go back up in order to start the machine, then that momentary switch, that was great. Made a whole bubble out of spit and everything. That was adorable. That momentary switch would end up reseating, and then that would help you. Let's see. Did you ever get the 820 fixed in the Stanley? That project is going to get hauled in as soon as we get past primary lawn tractor selling season. That is a project that's going to take a lot of teardown, a lot of pull it apart and clean it and double check everything, and hope to hell that I can order whatever gear happens to have a tooth missing out of it. And the reason why I haven't touched that is because eBay at this point has become very slim pickings for parts and stuff. So for transmission gearing parts, it is very slim pickings right now. So that's going to happen in the fall, most likely. That way I can rebuild that machine, park it with a tarp on it, and it can be one of my first machines I put up for sale next summer when all of this cornhole stupid virus is over and done with. Those Stanley machines are actually a GT Murray, and I hate the drivetrain in them. I hate dealing with the clutch system. I hate dealing with trying to get the belts in them, and that's something I'm gonna set aside for when I need to kill time. We'll work on it just when we need time to kill. This winter, I'm going to try to have a series of 2 work-on tractors lined up so that we can be able to pull them out of the snowbank. What I'm going to try to do is get them lined up so that they're jacked up on something that will not freeze them to the ground, and put a tarp over it, so that way as the winter goes on, we can pull one in, we can do the stuff it needs, and we can continue working through this winter. That's the goal, along with getting into some snowblowers. I don't like working on snowblowers, but that's how you make money in the winter if you're a small engine mechanic. So that's what we're going to do with snowblowers. Let me see. I saw a kill switch under the seat with a hole drilled in it for a pin as a tether switch. Yeah, there's a lot of people that use kill switches in order to go and make a tether switch. The other thing that you can do with a kill switch is, oh, do I got one here? I thought I had one. I thought I had a, okay. Here, we're going to use this. Okay, so ignore this part, okay? So this is your push button for your kill switch, and we're gonna light it, I guess. But so when it's down, it runs. When it's up, oh, it doesn't light. It hates you guys. So when it's down, it runs. When it's up, it's off. So what I've seen people do is they put a loop and then a loop, and then they take and they put a pin with a pin through it, through the 2 loops. Oh, now it lights. They put a pin through the 2 loops and they tie off to it. And then that way, if they pull the pin, it acts as a kill switch. That design I actually really like. I've seen a bunch of people do that. And it's with the big metal loop there, and metal on metal when it pulls, it's less likely to catch on anything, I think, my own personal opinion. So I would rather do one that way. And that's a DIY thing that I might happen to go and put on the channel at some point. But that's the favorite one I've seen done. I like that style. How's the Ranger project going? I'm going to be ripping into the Silver Ranger in order to get it ready for my state inspection. I need to get that inspected next month. So I got the registration done actually this week. I've got the plate, number tags and everything coming in. So we're going to get that done. And once the Ranger is passed through as far as getting ready for the inspection, I will start in on the next thing. Jesse's truck is probably going to be first on the list, getting that torn apart so that she can actually have some time to drive it this summer. And then I will finish up the Blue Ranger and get it converted over to red, and hopefully in time for winter. That's the goal at this point. I can't flip tractors in order to go and make extra money. So everything right now is based on whatever I happen to have for parts already on hand. I've got the parts on hand to pass inspection with the silver truck. So that's happening. I've got the parts on hand to fix Jesse's truck. So that'll be happening after the silver truck. And then hopefully I will be able to start on the 4x4 Ranger rust to red project as soon as I get Jesse's truck done. But Jesse's truck I will be documenting when I do, and I'll show you guys as far as what's going on with the silver truck. All right, well, on to the Sprite. We'll see if it's got burps in it. I like talking with the Barq's root beer because other than the first like couple of sips off of it, usually it doesn't tend to have too many burps when I'm talking with you guys. That's why we're trying a couple of different things, because the ginger ale, yeah, with the ginger ale, I definitely kept burping at you, so I apologize. Okay. Let's see. What did you do to the frame, hood, and fenders, engine, and transmission for the old Maine mud mower? Let's see. Okay. So the original steering setup for that, the front axle assembly and reinforced, the reinforced mount point assembly for that, I actually have stored for the next AYP build that I do as a dirt cheap, because I've got the original cast iron and everything all saved. The frame was bent. The frame is long since gone. I actually ended up cutting up the frame and using it to fix the Silver Ranger. So Maine mud mower actually lives on in about 2 feet worth of frame rail on the Silver Ranger. The front skid pan that is on the that is on Mud Wizard is actually a chunk of steel out of the frame from Maine mud mower. The transmission that was in Maine mud mower is actually currently the transmission that is in the Mud Wizard right now, but I need to fix my shift linkage on it. That's not a problem with the transmission. That's I need to fix the shift linkage. The body pan, I believe I still have kicking around here somewhere, or I sold it. I don't remember. The hood metal, I ended up using the hood metal in order to put a new front on another machine, and I sold that. Yeah, that's pretty much about it. So as far as what happened to it, it got chunked out, divided up, and used. So, oh, the original drive pulley for the engine is in Mud Wizard. The pulley that is on the transmission currently is the original one from Maine mud mower, and the engine from Maine Mudmower was toast, but the head was still good. So the head is actually the one that's on the Mud Wizard's engine that's in it, because the block on Maine Mudmower was worn out and it was eating out the cylinders. So I took a block with a cracked head and I put the head onto that and got that up and running. Let's see. Mr. Rowley says, why not put a roll over bar on John's mower behind the seat like what's on a subcompact tractor? That's a really good question. And here's the answer to your question. I actually consulted a few different people about that idea. And the statement that I got from all of them was, if you do not have a seatbelt that is holding you into it, then that roll bar just becomes another point to end up having something crush your arm, crush your hand, or crush you. And so the problem with a two-wheel drive mud mower is you need to be able to shimmy. You need to be able to shimmy it, and you need to be able to throw the rear around in order to be able to get traction. And if you're in a harness inside of a roll cage, that's a really hard thing to do, because you're not dealing with you see what I mean? So I think the issue that I'm running into is I need to build something that is more go-kartish. I need to build something that is lower to the ground, but yet big enough tires to get over stuff, with a center of gravity that is front forward and lowered, so that way if it wheelies, it's not going to go up and over. So I think with John, I need to build something more go-kartish, more rear engine transmission type idea. And that's what I'm kind of sorting out right now, is a couple of ideas for that. The other thing is that there is I apologize, I cannot think of his name. There is a YouTuber that has created using actually I think it might be a 633 or a 2300 rear end. He created a mini two-wheel drive crawler type unit, and the motor is actually sitting over the top of the transmission itself. And he's got like a shift linkage unit that he's built to be able to shift it. And his son, who is about John's age and size, actually sits in front of that entire unit and drives it. That I think would be really cool. That's an idea that I've seen thrown around many, many times, and that would be cool. Let's see. Ailing says, can I just say you and Jesse are great, and I'm glad to see you happy. I love when you do videos together. Also, the first time you rode the gas-powered Power Wheel and wheelied it still makes me laugh. Yeah. The gas-powered Power Wheel is fun. It probably will never actually see any real actual trail because it's tippy, because it's built like a monster truck. So I don't think it'll ever actually see any major trail, but it is a lot of fun to drive. I've got some parts to work on it to be able to go and fix it up and make it better. And as soon as I can get my personal life and my father's funeral and everything out of the way, I will definitely be looking into getting the gas-powered Power Wheel back up onto the the queue, as they say. But I really appreciate you and your input on me and Jesse. And yes, Jesse definitely brings out a happier side of me, and she brings out a lot of my actual personality in the videos. That's the hard part for me to admit, is that the goofy stupid that you see in the videos when Jesse's around is the real me, and not the I need to make video me talk 'em, get 'em, teach 'em into vibe 'em type thing that I am in the videos. Like, and people have pointed that out over the years. I have a different voice when I'm talking in video, and I have a different attitude. But that's common for most YouTubers, actually. If you ever meet a YouTuber in person, don't ever be surprised if the YouTuber in person talks slightly or very different than how they talk in video. It's one of those things. You develop a stage voice and a video voice over time, and it tends to be different than your actual personal voice. Spartan Spat. I like that name. Could you do a tutorial on how to hook up a light bar? I'm pretty sure Auxbeam already has several different tutorials on how to do light bars. I like Auxbeam, and I like Nilite. Is it Nilite? I believe. Nilite and Auxbeam. I really like both of their products. That Auxbeam taillight thing bar that is on my truck, I get compliments on that all the time. I probably have somebody point that out at least every 2 or 3 weeks on a regular basis. They want to know where I bought it, how long I've had it, how much I paid. That Auxbeam taillight assembly is amazing. The reverse light that thing is capable of is downright headlight. It's outstanding. I love it. Definitely worth looking into if you have a truck like mine and you need some sort of lighting of that nature. The other thing that I'm debating when I build the assembly, the headache bar. Okay, let me try that again. When I build the headache bar for the Rust to Red truck, what I am really debating is taking one of those Auxbeam lights and putting it across the upper part of the headache rack on that. And then that way, no matter what I'm hauling, where it is or whatever, that lighting, the blinker and everything is going to be up there and in sight everywhere. And unless that entire rear rack is covered up with stuff, there is no way that you wouldn't see it. And the other thing is if it's up there, if I've got stuff loaded on a trailer behind the truck, that's 7 feet off the ground. So if I've got a trailer loaded with upwards of like 5 to 6 feet worth of stuff, I'm still going to see that light from that headache bar shining down across. Whoa. Okay, we just had a power brownout there. So if I lose you guys, I apologize right now. Like I said, we've had some really interesting issues here in Maine lately. The internet's been kind of stupid, and we've been getting brownouts on a regular basis lately for the last few weeks. So I don't know who like stuck their finger in the wall outlet or whatever, but they need to cut it out. As far as the Monte Carlo, that question comes up. It's still actually sitting in the garage right underneath where my butt is right now. The problem is I can't get parts right now. I have parts to be able to start the Monte Carlo build, but I can't get the parts that I need to be able to go and finish the Monte Carlo build. So as it is right now, the Monte Carlo is going to sit where it is. We will unveil it and pull it out of its 8-year grave, at some point. But I can't manage to go and get the parts I need in order to do it right now because of this cornhole virus. So it's going to stay there because there's no sense for me to unmothball it just to end up getting stalled out when I have 3 other projects I need to finish. Actually 4 if you count the Jeep, because I want to go and find out what's up with the Jeep. I need to get my Silver Ranger ready for inspection. I need to get Jesse's truck done so that she can drive it. Now that I got the parts finally showed up in order to be able to work on that. And I've got to go and get the Rust to Red project rolling now that I've got parts showing up for that. And I ordered these parts over 2 months ago, keep in mind. It took 2 months for me to get parts in. So that's where I'm at right now with stuff. Let's see. A guy gave us an LT4000 with a 5-speed that was trashed. I had to put in reverse to push it. It also locked like it was ran into a tree. I can't tell you the number of older Craftsmen that I have ended up. That's the reason why when I junk out Craftsman's, one of the first things that I always pull off of the frame is I always pull that whole entire steering assembly, the axle truss and everything. There are times, like if it's the one that has the welded in truss, I will literally take a plasma cutter and take the 5 seconds to slice that entire outer edge and drop that entire truss out, because those things people hit trees with. They hit rock walls, they hit trees, they hit the bumpers on things. I don't know what it is about LT1s, LT2s, and LT4000s, but people hit things with them all the time. And I think, yet again, I think it's that whole clutch thing. I think it's that those tractors, because they have the clutch in them, you get somebody, they do the whole moment, and then that's the end of it. Bang, they run into something. You should make a tow truck lawnmower. I've actually got plans. The big giant white that I just picked up, it has a 0 category stage 1, 0 category 3-point hitch. There we go. That's a mouthful. A category there. Let's try that one more time. Here we go. Category 0 3-point hitch. There we go. Which in theory, as long as the piston is good in it, the hydraulic ram, I mean, as long as the hydraulic ram is good, should be good for about 450 pounds or so. At 450 pounds, there are very few lawn tractors, even most GTs, that if I hitched onto them with that, I should be able to lift it up and I should be able to run it out wherever I need it. That's my goal, is to get the whole backyard area. When you're looking at my chicken coop in the videos, the area off to the left, the goal in the future by next year is to run a gravel driveway all the way to the back corner, put a storage shed back there that is big enough for me to be able to use comfortably, and then once I have that out there, be able to slide lawn tractors off to either side down that driveway. That way I can pull everything out and around, and the junkyard that is off to the side when people drive in will be gone. I want the junkyard out there. That way eventually I can put up a privacy fence and be able to put off a close-off gate, and then that way everything is over there and out of the way. Let's see. I own a Roper RT16 from the 1970s, and my neighbor took the motor out for his log splitter. He cut all of the key pieces for the motor. I hope to restore it. Is a Roper Sears Suburban similar? Unfortunately, I don't know the answer to your question. I'd be lying to say that I do. if I were you, I would probably go and post the question to my tractor forum. Yeah, mytractorforum.com. The old guys there would love to go and answer your question on. Whoa, Sprite's got burps. Would love to go and answer your question as far as that's concerned. Let's see. Gabby, Grady York, what's your opinion on Ford? I don't really have an opinion. See, I have this policy of point A to point B. If I get in it, I turn the key, and it goes from point A to point B. I don't care what the brand is. I'm also one of those people where it's very rare that any vehicle ever gets painted anything but black around me. If I have to repaint that vehicle, it will probably end up black. And the reason being is because I can just go through and repaint anything I want to put on it with Rust-Oleum black, and it'll blend in. I don't care. I don't have an opinion on Chevy, Hyundai, anything. I don't care. If I can get into it and I can turn the key and I can go point A to point B, A-okay with me. Let's see. Rallyman says, heading to bed here. Up for work tomorrow. Good luck with the coming week. Let's see. Thoughts from over the pond. Yeah. You too, man. Over the pond and through the woods and off to grandmother's house we go. Yeah, as far as this coming week is concerned, my goal is just to survive to Sunday. If I can make it to Sunday, get through all the funeral stuff, get all of that done, get past all that, we'll regroup and we'll get the channel back rolling after that. Just got to make it that far. So let's see, we got about 9 minutes left in the chat. We usually go to about 7:30. If you guys have any further questions, feel free to throw them down. We'll try to go and get through them, before 7:30. I've got some stuff that I got to go and get on that's time sensitive. So we're going to cut it off at 7:30 this time. Sorry if I didn't manage to get to a question. Let's see. Is a chain drive gearbox or belt drive transmission better? So, okay. When you're dealing with something like, say, a 700 Peerless, a 700 Peerless is belt drive into the gearbox, and then it goes to a chain drive. As far as that kind of situation is concerned, there's a lot of guys that actually swear by the chain drive situation. That's because you end up with a slacking point in the chain that gives you a certain winch up on. I can't think of what the term is, but it gives you a certain amount of slack that you work with. And that chain allows you to have that gripping slack in there. And you lose that when you end up with a regular transmission and you have a belt drive going to it, and it's just plain gear to gear to gear to the axle. There's no slack, there's no play, there's no nothing. So at that point, if you hit something solid that binds that axle, the breaking point is the transmission itself. If you have a chain drive system in the rear, plus if it's a chain drive Peerless to a belt drive going to the engine, you've got 2 points of slack out that if you bind that rear end, you're going to be able to go and work through. That's part of the reason why it is that I also run a 1-to-1 ratio when it comes to my pulleys. I run a 5.5 to a 6 on the transmission. And the reason why I do that is because it still allows enough slippage that if I really bind up those rear bear claws, I don't have it blowing transmissions. You'll actually hear it, If you watch the last video that I posted over on RCG Racing, what you actually hear when I'm in the really, really, really deep mud hole is you can actually hear the belt slipping, and then the belt heats up, and then the belt slowly begins to get grip, and then it walks itself right out of that mud hole. And that's what you need to be paying attention to when you're dealing with that kind of thing. That's my 2 cents on belt drive versus the chain drive gearbox assemblies. Is you've got slack points that make up for that slamming that you get with a belt drive transmission. I remember the old Tractorland videos. I don't think he's posted anything in a very long time because I get a lot of requests to do Tractorland similar videos, and that usually happens when a YouTuber goes dormant. Lennard's Office, I do watch on occasion, and I don't know who Moldy Mac is, so I guess I'll have to look that up after we're done with this chat. Let's see. Grady York, what do you search in eBay to get the diesel motor? I tried and nothing came up. Search 10 horsepower single cylinder diesel, or search single cylinder diesel and then sort the search for United States. Usually also you can type in Yanmar, which is what the clones are based on. The clones are based on a Yanmar 10 horsepower and a Yanmar 6 horsepower. So those are the 2 ways you can usually look it up. Let's see. Let's see. Mower body. Why doesn't the belt slip and catch work with a Vari-Drive? That's a very good question. I have a theory on it. I do not know whether I am right, but here's my theory on it. When you have a regular belt drive system, you have 2 slipping points, okay? You have your engine, you have your transmission. So when you start to go and slip your belt, you end up with heating up the belt on the engine, and then eventually you heat up the pulley on the transmission because the engine heats up to the point it gets grip, and so it starts forcing the belt to go, which heats up the transmission, which ends up getting grip, and then you go. That's what happens when you're in a mud hole. You can actually see after you come out of a mud hole, if it was really, really deep, you can actually see the heat caused by a Kevlar belt will actually cause steam coming out from underneath the rear end of the mud mower. When you have a Vari-Drive system, you're putting an in-between. Think of it as insulating from the heat. If you had just a plain, a plain open area between you and the heat source and where the heat needs to be, that is one thing. But if you have an insulating wall between the heat source and where the heat needs to be, the heat obviously doesn't travel through. And that's because by the time you heat the engine pulley, then you heat the upper Vari-Drive pulley, lower. You heat the lower Vari-Drive pulley to heat the upper Vari-Drive pulley to finally heat the rear transmission pulley. You have transferred so much heat from the engine that you're just never going to make it to the transmission once you start that slippage, because that intermittent CVT that is in there, that is huge. Like, if you've never actually held a CVT, I would bet that if you took your front pulley, your back pulley, and probably another 2 extra pulleys, they would not equal the weight of that CVT in a Vari-Drive. And that CVT has to absorb enough heat from that engine drive belt that it finally manages to heat up the CVT to transfer the heat to the back transmission pulley. That's the reason why it is they slip when they get into the water and when they get into the mud. They just plain can't manage to transfer that heat all the way back. All right. So there we go, guys. Thank you very much for everybody that stopped in and browsed around and asked questions and joined in on the chat today. I really appreciate on being able to go and talk about my father and work through a few things. This was actually quite therapeutic, and I appreciate everybody that decided to say something and you know input and share their situations and stuff like that. And I really appreciate that. Um, you know, I've worked really hard over the last 8 years to build a family around the Mudmower community and a group of friends, and I really appreciate that you guys decided to go and come in and give me support and talk about things. And it was very heartwarming, and I appreciate it. So thank you very much, and everybody have fun and keep the tractors going, because I need to take a week off and deal with my stuff.